The truth about cardio is it's fantastic for improving things like your VO2 max, fantastic for improving your cardiovascular fitness, and it releases endorphins. People feel great doing it. That's why people love doing Hydrox events, exercise classes, you know, people love running together. That's the reason, but it's not necessary for fat loss. And if used in the wrong way, it can actually make fat loss harder. And I see this time and time again. So let's talk about how you can use it in the wrong way. When people use it as the primary form of exercise, I see this all the time. And the reason is because it's easier. There's a low barrier of resistance to put your running shoes on and just go for a run. And it feels like you're doing a lot. Yes, you will lose weight, but you'll also lose muscle tissue as well. And that's when most people overly focus on that goal weight. They do a ton of cardio and they get to that goal weight and they're confused. They're like, I still look untoned, soft. I've still got that stubborn belly fat that won't go away. And that's because this process isn't about weight loss. It's about fat loss. So in order to be that lean athletic physique, you have to have your resistance training as your primary form of exercise, and cardio can be the cherry on top. Another thing is people overly obsess on calories burnt. They look on their tracker and they're like trying to spark their heart rate as high as they can and try and burn as much calories. But burning calories doesn't equate to fat loss. It's really important to understand that. Something I'm going to go over later in this video. And number three is using it to justify overeating. So many people say, oh, I went for a massive run this morning, so yeah, I can eat more today. And the problem with this is there's a massive point of diminishing returns with this, where they are kind of over-exercising, overtraining, overdoing the cardio, and then overeating. The body doesn't want to continually lose fat. So when you're burning so much energy, your body wants to increase your energy input. So it increases your hunger and cravings to try and get you to eat more calories, because a calorie is just a unit of energy. And we eat calories to either burn, go about our daily tasks, or we store it as fat. So someone with a lot of fat, someone just with a lot of stored energy. So as you can see, there's a massive point of diminishing returns when people will overdo their cardio and then they struggle to contain their hunger and cravings and they overeat, and then they do more cardio to make up for that, and it becomes a horrible shame spiral. All of you are here not because you want to lose weight, because you want to build that lean athletic physique and ultimately become healthier, happier versions of yourself, for your friends, for your family, and have confidence that spills into other aspects of your life. So the number one fundamental thing is to have your training that helps you build that lean athletic physique, helps that build that muscle in the right places, and your nutrition, because in order to lose fat, you need to be in a negative energy balance. That's a calorie deficit. So when you consume less calories in a day than you burn, it's really that simple. Without those two things, you will not build a lean athletic physique. On top of that, we've got our NEAT. This is our daily activity. This is how active we are as a person. This is our non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And it's literally the difference between when you take a lift, when you go on the stairs, when you're walking your dog, when you're fidgeting like this here, all of that contributes to the NEAT. And that compounds hugely to your overall metabolism. And that's a really important point. These are the four things that make up your metabolism. Number one is your BMR, your basal metabolic rate. That's the amount of calories your body burns just to keep you alive. So if you've got out of bed in the morning, sat on the couch all day, and then went to bed in the evening, the amount of calories your body burnt in that day would be your BMR. And there's things you can do to increase your BMR, like the more muscle mass you have, the more calories your body burns just to keep you alive. That's why building muscle is a fat loss cheat code. Not only do you look better, you look leaner, you look more toned, you also burn more calories, so you can eat more. So it becomes this beautiful snowball. And then the next biggest contributor to that metabolism is your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. You're walking, all the things you do in a day that's not exercise. Next is your TEA. That's your thermic effective activity. That is your kind of weight training, your exercise classes, your cardio. So as you can see, that actually has such a small contribution to your fat loss. That's why using cardio as a fat loss tool is not very effective. It is important for building lean muscle. That's where your resistance training comes in. And then the last is the thermic effect of food, the amount of calories your body burns just to digest food. So once you've got your resistance training to build the muscle, your nutrition to help you shred that fat, you've then got your NEAT, your daily activity compounding over time. You can then add cardio in as the cherry on top to increase that NEAT. So let's talk about the two different types of cardio there are. It's HIIT, high intensity interval training, and then you've got LISS, low intensity steady state cardio. So the first one, HIIT, is basically just short periods of intense work followed by periods of rest. It's really that simple. And the worst way to do it is when you see people kind of jumping up and down, doing burpees, basically exercise classes. So things like Hydrox, circuit training, boxing, people are doing that to burn fat. But as you can see, it's such a small contributor. It's basically just like a rubbish workout. Let's talk about how you can do HIIT the smart way. I would keep it kind of machine-based, treadmill, rower, air bike. If you're in the gym, avoid kind of like random circuits, burpees, that kind of thing. You want your heart rate to be around 90 to 95% when you're working on that sprint. So 15, 20-second sprint, say you're on a treadmill, and then you want to have active recovery for 90, 120 seconds. Maybe you go into a walk. So sprinting, walking, and maybe you do that to 4 to 6 rounds. That's an example of how you could strategically input HIIT the smart way at the end of your workout. So let's talk about how you can progress this over time. So you could either increase the sprint interval, you could reduce the amount of rest, or you could increase the rounds. All of these can make it harder, give you a bit of challenge and keep things interesting. So let's talk about LISS. This is my favorite type of cardio. This is one I recommend to all my clients to help them bump up that NEAT, that daily activity. And it's exactly what it sounds like, low intensity steady state cardio. It can be a jog, it can be a fast walk, but it's important to understand the biggest mistakes people make. Like I said, using it as a primary form of exercise, because the barrier resistance is so low, putting putting on running shoes, going for a run, and that being the only form of exercise they're doing. Yes, they may lose weight, but they'll be burning muscle tissue, and that leads to that skinny fat look. Overtraining, excessive amounts of running, thinking if they're not seeing results, they're not doing enough, so they try and burn more calories, they try and do more, and then as a result, their body wants to increase their energy inputs, their hunger and cravings go up, and then they get into that shame spiral, and then they overexercise, overeat, and they're just trying to outrun a bad diet. I see that all the time. So let's talk about how you can implement LISS the smart way. You can either do it outside as a fast walk or in the gym on one of the machines. So an example of steady state cardio is exactly what it sounds like. Raising your heart rate to around 70-75% of your maximum heart rate, and then just holding it there for 25-30 minutes. A lot of you are having a success doing this on a incline on the treadmill, and frequency might be doing this for 25 minutes, 2 times a week after your weight session. Like I said, it's a fantastic way to increase those steps, that daily activity, without spiking your hunger and cravings, without interfering with recovery. Yeah, and I just absolutely love it personally. So let's talk about how you can progress your LISS over time. It's really simple. You can either add time to the duration of the steady state cardio, the intensity, kind of the incline, or the frequency. So that's something you can gradually increase as your body starts to get used to it, as the results start to plateau or slow down. So let's talk about why working in that moderate intensity of 70-75% is kind of optimizing your fat burn. Fat needs oxygen, which is in easier supply at lower effort levels. So your body burns a higher percentage of fat compared to things like carbohydrates, which is stored in the muscle as glycogen. So when you're doing steady state cardio around 70-75% of your maximum heart rate for 20-25 minutes, your body's just burning fat as the primary energy source the whole time. So it's really, really effective for burning fat. When you are elevating your heart rate, doing kind of these exercise classes, HIIT training, boxing, these random workouts, the problem with getting your heart rate or spiking it to kind of 90-95% is glycogen is much quicker to use as energy, so the body prefers to use that during those sessions. So instead of burning fat, it starts to break down carbohydrates as glycogen that is stored in the muscle. So that's why calories burnt doesn't equate to fat loss. So during these HIIT sessions, you will be burning out of those calories much more carbs that are stored as glycogen in the muscle than you will fat compared to low intensity steady state cardio. So as you can see here, it seems like the sweet spot, especially from all the data we've seen, all the research, that keeping your heart rate around 70-75% seems to be that kind of optimal fat burning zone. So you may be thinking, great, Ollie, that sounds fantastic. How do I calculate my maximum heart rate? Here's a really simple equation. 220 minus age. So for me, I'm 33. I'll do 220 minus 33, and that's 187. I just want to make sure that that's right. 187. So that would be my maximum heart rate. If I wanted to calculate my heart rate for LISS, which would be around 70-75%, I'll do 187 times 0.70 or 0.75. For my LISS, I want to get my heart rate to around 130-140 beats per minute. And if I was to do HIIT and I want to go all out on those sprints, get my heart rate to around 90-95, I would do 187 times 0.9 or 0.95. And that's it, guys. That's the heart rate targets I would aim for each cardio session. And another quick thing I want to cover is so many people ask me when the right time to do cardio is, and the answer is whenever suits you. The only time I wouldn't suggest doing it is before your weight session, because then you start to fatigue, and that means less energy, less progressive overload in your sessions, and the less progressive overload, the less energy you have, the less progress you're going to get, and then worse results over time. So that's the only time I would say not to do your cardio. And that's it for the video, guys. But remember, when it comes to building a lean athletic physique, the most important thing is your nutrition for your fat loss, your resistance training for building muscle, your NEAT for that overall daily activity compounded over time has a huge effect, and then you can add the cardio like a cherry on top of the cake. I hope you enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.